But we will start the show with some rumors that developed yesterday about Zion Williamson and his family possibly taking benefits in order to go to Duke, in order to sign with Nike. And hearing these benefits, or hearing this, I should say these rumors, excuse me, reading them, seeing the comments, to me, Zion Williamson and his family aren't the bad guys in this latest lawsuit that's going on, and aren't the bad guys if indeed they did take money to go to Duke, did take money to sign with Nike. And this is proof, absolute proof, why name, image, and likeness, which we talked about just a few weeks ago on the show, as the NCAA is finally moving forward with how to handle and how to put a policy in place to allow student athletes to benefit off their name, image, and likeness while in school, be allowed to take money because of their talents on the field. This is absolute proof why sooner rather than later, ASAP, these rules have to be put in place and that allows student athletes to be able to profit off themselves and make money for being talented as a college athlete and for being a well-recognizable figure even in college. And how this came about, and this is not just a random rumor that came out of nowhere. This is coming about because Zion's former marketing representative, Gina Ford, and her agency, Prime Sports, now they're suing Williamson for a breach of contract that he signed. He signed a marketing contract to them, 5-year contract, as soon as he declared that he was going from the NBA right out of Duke. And now Zion is trying to get out of this deal. And really, that's not the newsworthy aspect because this lawsuit isn't new. This lawsuit actually filed back in the summer. This is an ongoing legal battle between Gina Ford and Prime Sports against Zion Williamson and his family. Now, it is new, and why this is really noteworthy and starting to spread like wildfire and getting some notoriety throughout the sports world is because what's going on is now Gina Ford and Prime Sports, they want Williamson in court to admit that his mother and his stepfather demanded and accepted benefits and money from Adidas, Nike, and Duke in order to, again, go to Duke in order to sign with Nike. And they even made some specific requirements and specific admissions that they want Zion to say in court. And some of those include, so they want Sharonda Sampson, which is Williamson's mother, Lee Anderson, his stepfather, quote, they want Zion to admit in court that they, quote, demanded and received gifts and economic benefits from persons acting on behalf of Duke University, directly or indirectly, to influence Williamson to go play basketball at Duke. Same thing, they want them to admit that they demanded and received gifts, money, and other benefits from Nike in order to have Zion go to Duke because Duke is a Nike basketball school. So it makes sense that Nike would want Zion to go to a Nike school so that when he goes to the NBA, he could sign with Nike. Now, they also want Zion to admit that his mother and stepfather demanded and received gifts from Adidas to influence Zion to sign with Adidas. And then also, before he was at Duke, they want him to admit that his stepfather and his mother accepted benefits from an NCAA certified agent. That's not allowed by the NCAA. Remember, you can't sign with an agent, and once you do, you are deemed ineligible. And they think that they signed with an agent and received benefits from an agent going all the way back to January of 2014. That's when Zion was, trying to think, probably 6 years or so. That was even before he was in high school. Probably in 7th grade, 8th grade, he was already talking with an agent. And that just makes sense because Zion was really, since LeBron, the biggest high school prospect, the most recognizable name in high school basketball that we've heard in a very, very, very long time. Now, reading all this, seeing all these allegations that Gina Ford and Prime Sports want Zion to admit in court, I read this and I look at this, and I don't get mad at Zion Williamson. I don't get even mad at Coach K or at Duke. I get more mad at the NCAA because this is ridiculous. Because this is absolutely Zion Williamson's right, his family's rights, to get as much money as possible while you can. Like, we do live in the United States here. This is a free market. It's not communist Russia, communist China, where everything's capped off and you can't do this. You are allowed to make as much money as you can off your talents and your skills. Anyone can do that. I can do it. You can do it. Any college athlete can do it. Any high school student can do it. Look at TikTok. Kids are 13 or 14 years old, and they're making money because they get so many views that now companies are sponsoring them. There's no rules in the government. There's no rules in the market and capitalism saying that, these kids are too young, they can't do that. There's only one area in the entire United States that prevents people, athletes, kids, from making money, and that is the NCAA in those 4 or 5 years that you're in college. And the reason why name, image, and likeness rules have to be implemented ASAP is because if that was the case, guess what? None of this is happening. None of this is a big deal. Zion absolutely should be getting money from Nike or Adidas. Why is it such a bad thing that these guys, that these shoe companies and these apparel companies are trying to shower Zion and his family with gifts, trying to influence him to sign with Nike, sign with Adidas, sign with Puma, whoever? It's not the worst thing in the world. Kid deserves it. If you're that good at what you do, if people want to pay you for it, to represent them, to sponsor and market their brand, no matter if you're 14 years old, no matter if you're 20 years old, no matter if you're 80 years old, you should absolutely be able to do it. So reading all these allegations and all of these claims that this marketing company wants Zion and his family to admit in court, they're not the bad people in this scenario. Nike's not a bad actor. Coach K's not a bad guy. Duke's not a bad university because they gave Zion all these gifts and tried to influence him to go to Duke. He's doing what every other person has the legal right to do in this country. Again, except if you're in that 4 or 5 year window where you play college sports. Not even if you go to college. If you just play college sports alone, you're the only demographic, you're the only area that you cannot profit off of your talents and your likeness and your name and your celebrity status. Every other kid in college that doesn't play sports can profit off their talents. Every other kid in high school, elementary school, professionally, can do whatever they can do to make money. And if people want to pay them to do what they do or market their brand, it's encouraged. That's what America is all about. So yeah, I look at this, I read these allegations, I look directly at Duke. I look directly at the NCAA, saying this is what's wrong with college athletics. And if they are truly concerned about the G League taking kids, because now the G League, what it's doing is instead of going to college for a year, you can go right to, if you are selected, go right to the G League, which Zion is a prime candidate and the perfect example of a guy who would go right to the G League. You get paid money, you get paid a salary, you get to train with NBA coaches and players. And basically, instead of going to college, you could spend 1 year training with NBA coaches and players, scouts, to make sure your game is as best as it is. So when the draft comes around, you're ready. And you get paid to do it. So if the NCAA is truly worried that this, can ruin college basketball, you have to start allowing kids to make money in college so that now all of a sudden, the G League maybe doesn't look as enticing. Maybe kids don't leave early. Maybe they stay one more year in college sports, whether it's basketball, whether it's football, or it's any sport, because they're getting some money, they're getting some flow of income, and they like the college atmosphere, they like the college environment, and they aren't as desperate for money, and maybe can stay around, and can develop a little more and keep the college game going instead of going right to the pros, needing money because they can't make any money, and this is the only shot they have to support them in the failings. So this is why I look at it, and I don't. Maybe people want to get mad at Coach K. Maybe people want to get mad at Zion. I am not. I think they are absolutely doing what they should be doing. I'm totally against the NCAA with dragging their feet and finally taking some legal action by states all across the country. That's the only reason why they're even getting the ball rolling here when it comes to name, image, and likeness, and finally allowing athletes to be able to get paid for being a celebrity at their college. And not to mention, to try to pin this as a Duke issue or a Zion issue, the scheme, which is a documentary on HBO, to kind of highlight all this recruiting that goes on behind the scenes and all this money that is shifted to get these players to go to these big-time universities. This is not just isolated to Duke. This is really the first time that maybe Duke has come into the news about playing a player. But, the scheme itself had wiretaps of Will Wade, who's at LSU, and Sean Miller at Arizona, openly talking about paying certain players to come to school. Sean Miller is obviously with DeAndre Ayton back in the day, trying to get him to come to school, and other recruits making them some, quote, strong offers to go to their respective schools. USC was tied up in this. Louisville had to fire Rick Pitino because of recruiting allegations. Auburn had to fire their assistant coach. There's a lot of these schools, especially in college basketball, where one player can turn your program around quickly. This happens all the time. It's not surprising. If anything, you're naive to think that doesn't happen. And this is just a one-off, or these are just some of these, schools like Duke. Obviously, we have Kansas as well, who they have major allegations against them from the NCAA. This happens even at the smaller programs you wouldn't think of. I can promise you that. So how does this get above board? How do we put this out in the open? How do we kind of level the playing field? By letting players get paid. Letting players, maybe not on a salary, which I think would not work, but let players get paid what the market dictates they get paid. If they want to go to LSU, or they want to go to Duke, knowing that their celebrity playing basketball at Duke is going to elevate them put them in the center, put them in the limelight, put them at the center of attention of college basketball. Let them do it. Let them go to a big-time school or even a small-time school that's near a big city, like Rutgers or Northwestern, near hubs like New York City and Chicago. They can be profited there and marketed there, and there are companies in those respective cities that want, a face of the franchise for Rutgers basketball or Northwestern football. Let them go. I don't understand how this ruins college sports. If anything, it helps college sports because, again, you're chasing the best athletes away because you don't want them taking money or any sort of advantage. So what that happens is players get suspended. So they miss games on the field because they get money on the side somehow, which, again, everyone is doing. Or they leave a year or two early because they're not getting any money. This is their only chance to make a living and, again, make an income for them and their families and support them. So even if they're going to be a third or fourth round pick and maybe staying an extra year could help boost them up to a first or second round pick, but they leave a year early because they realize every year I wait and I don't get paid, it's harder for me to support my family. They're leaving early. They're getting the money. So now if you can allow players to get name, image, and likeness, get money, get sponsorships, social media sponsorships, local car dealer sponsorships, any company that wants to give players money to market them in any sport. It's not ruining college sports. We're not looking at it differently because we're watching Duke and we know Zion Williamson is getting paid $100,000, let's just say, from Nike to play at Duke. I'm not watching college basketball any differently. I'm not looking at Duke any differently. I'm not watching Kansas basketball kind of feeling eerie and gross that, one of their best players, let's say a Lawrence car dealership, is giving them $10,000 to sponsor them. Who's looking at it differently? No one. So it's the NCAA trying to, again, to keep all the money going to their pockets, keep all the money that goes into college sports within the universities and with the NCAA. So look at these Zion Williamson rumors that him and his family demanded and took benefits from Duke, from Nike, from Adidas, talked to an agent as early as back in 2014, again, which is when he's still in junior high. Let it happen. There's, to me, nothing bad that can happen, and it won't change recruiting because guess what? This all happens below the table. This all happens when we aren't really worried about it or maybe turning a blind eye to it. At least now, if you can put it above board, put it out in the open, it eliminates the questions, and I feel like it almost alleviates the skeeviness of it. For example, the University of Tennessee right now is on a recruiting rampage with college football. They're getting big-time recruits left and right. They're going into Alabama, taking big-time recruits from the state of Alabama that are interested in the Crimson Tide, that are interested in the Auburn Tigers, and going there and taking them to Tennessee. Do I have any doubt that maybe Tennessee now is finally offering more money than they were? No. I think that's absolutely what's going on, personally. These kids are not dumb. These kids know what's out there. So why not just put it all above board? Why not just put it all out in the open? No one's upset that these kids are making money. They absolutely should be making money. I still don't understand why the NCAA I understand why the NCAA wants to do it because, again, they want all the money for themselves as much as possible. But I read these allegations. I don't look badly upon Duke. I don't blame them at all because guess what? If they didn't pay Zion, Kansas is. Arizona is. Kentucky is. Another one of these schools are paying Zion a lot of money to come there. So I don't look badly upon Duke. I don't look badly upon Zion or his family. I just look at the NCAA again with their antiquated rules, with trying to control the talent and basically trying to have as much free labor as possible, putting Zion and his family in a position to where they look like the bad guys in this situation, when in fact they're doing what every other person would have done.